If you want to rank up in Valorant, Yoru needs to be your next main. Let me explain. Yoru is by far the most versatile duelist in all of Valorant. That's why insane pros like TenZ and Extra utilize him to his fullest ability. His kit is made up of a teleport, a clone, and 2 flashes, and I really want to start with his TP. His TP, unlike Chambers, has unlimited range, which is why I feel like it's the main pillar to his diversity. Yoru can toss a TP on sight and skip all sorts of hazards like mollies, setups, and open lines of sight, and he immediately takes space for his team. If you want less aggressive and risky play, you can just place a TP right in front of the site you're pushing, and if things get dicey inside, you just have a quick way out.
One enemy remaining.
Time to jump.
Now, my personal favorite part about his TP is his ability to lurk and fake out the enemies. While his ability to fake the TP sound is pretty useful, that's not what I'm actually talking about. Since Yoru's TP has infinite range like we said, with a good lineup you can send it to the opposite site your team is pushing and you can lurk on the other. After you get a pick, you can quickly TP and regroup to collapse on site. Well, let's take attacking on bind for an example. So say your team is pushing on B site and you're going to lurk over here on A. Before the round starts, you can toss a TP straight through and eventually it's going to land fountain. And then now, when the round starts, you can aggress towards Sours while your team pushes up on B site. And hopefully, this is going to be a really idealistic game, but hopefully you'll get that pick and then teleport immediately. Now here's what the beauty of it is, even if you don't kill this Reyna, you still get value because they thought you were here, you get info, and you possibly get damage, which is also very huge. And immediately you're back with your team. You guys can collapse site now with a whole 5 men, rather than the typical sentinel lurking. Cypher's here, say he gets a pick, that's still huge, right? But then he either has to fight the Cypher that was chilling in U-Haul to get TP and go with his team, or he has to trek all the way back around to help his team. So that's the beauty of Yoru, he's so versatile because he can do whatever he wants, whether it works out for him or not, he can immediately get to safety and then continue to provide for his team. Now, aside from KO, Yoru is by far a Sentinel's biggest nightmare. Like we previously mentioned, Yoru can TP over setups and traps on site, but a strat I find more useful is to use his clone. If you've played Val for more than a day, then you definitely know about the notorious B-site Ascent Killjoy setup. An alarm bot sits in your lane, warning of any enemy presence, and once you're funneled in, KJ pops her mollies, making a death chamber. A little fun fact about Yoru's clone is that it sets off every trap in the game, which includes KJ's alarm bot. As soon as this guy is triggered, all the brain dead KJs pop their mollies immediately, and just like that, all her util is gone. My clone, costing 100 credits, can immediately render her defenseless as a sentinel, and she has no more but a measly turret to defend the site with. Alright, but realistically, we all know our favorite usage of this piece of util.
I woke up in a new Bugatti.
Now for his flashes. They're probably the least noteworthy part of his kit, however, they're still insanely useful and definitely necessary. His flashes are unique as they're the only ones that pop once they bounce off a surface. Even cooler than this is that they're invisible until they bounce off that surface. Now you can use this fact to trick enemies about your true position. While they do take practice and there are some techniques to make them harder to dodge, enemies can still dodge them relatively easily. However, if they do hit, they last for a fucking eternity. Now my favorite way to flash is out of a smoke, as it only shows once the flash is about to pop, making the time to react insanely small. Pairing the flash with the TP allows for some insane plays, whether it's TPing behind a blind enemy, or more realistically in high elo, flashing an open sight and running on the spike to teleport away. I can't count how many times I've done this and saved our team from a crisis. This is a good time to talk about Yoru's ult. His ult allows for him to travel across the map at a high speed and in a state of invulnerability. In his ulti, he's still able to use all his util and get easy frags on enemies. More importantly, this makes entering for your team a lot easier. You can scout out where all the enemies are, where their traps are, and possibly get a high value kill on the sentinel of the site. Now his ult reminds me of Omen's because you can pick up Spike while in his ulti. Yoru's however is much better, so long as you still have a TP to use. The problem with Omen's ult in a last alive clutch situation is that it's insanely predictable. Now I know the next clip is going to show Lotus, but just use your imagination, we're going to be talking about Haven. Let's imagine you're in a 1v2 on Haven and your team lost Spike on A. What teams in higher elo will likely do is play one player on A site to watch the bomb and one near the CCT area because they're expecting an Omen ulti. If an enemy predicts your TP and is near the site you TP onto, it's a very unfavorable fight. They have time to lurk up while you're planting and surprise you, or they wait for their teammates to get a 1v2, which is a very hard to win fight. The difference with Yoru is that he can enter dimensional drift near A site and already have a TP going to C. What this allows Yoru to do is first find the enemy on A site, which is already more intel than you get with Omen, but it also allows for you to quickly pop out of your ult, tap the plant sound, and immediately TP to C. What will happen here is that the enemy playing A will likely calm that you're planting, which makes their teammate rotate over. During this time, you're already across the map planting the spike, which immediately gets you more time off. What you have to remember in these situations is that your objective isn't necessarily to kill the enemies, it's to detonate the spike. So that extra time you get with Yoru adds to the likelihood of you winning. Also, a lower time to defuse will rush enemies into playing more risky and push them to make mistakes. And that about does it for Yoru. Hopefully this information is useful to you, especially with the new episode dropping in just a few days. I would like to hear what the community has to say about this, so please let me know if you agree with me in the comments. I wanted to mention that I am a new YouTuber, so I would appreciate some feedback from you guys. My name is Professor Q, and thanks for tuning in to today's lecture.